Welcome to RECO12. I'm Justin. I'm your host and a grateful child of an all-powerful, all-loving God and an addict. And while I'm not a saint, I am practicing progress, not perfection, in my walk in recovery. RECO12 is all about exploring the common threads of addiction and sharing tools and hope from those on a similar path. We gather together from diverse backgrounds, faiths, and places to learn and support one another. Our speakers represent various fellowships, addictions, and afflictions, thus showing the common threads of recovery, no matter our addiction or affliction. Today's speaker for the 240th meeting is Constance S., another first-time RECO12 speaker. Today, Constance will be sharing her experience of remaining sober in a world that celebrates alcohol. I look forward to hearing her experience, strength, and hope. And we'll get to her talk in the Q&A afterwards in just a minute. First, for a little bit of business. RECO12 has several recovery resources in our family of podcasts and social media communities. To learn more, listen more, connect more, or just hang out and learn and grow with us, you can check out the other podcasts, Noodle It Out with Nikki M., which releases every Tuesday, the Big Book Roundtable, which releases every Thursday, and this meeting, which releases every Friday, and we record this one live, and then it releases podcast within 2 hours after we record. To learn more about each of these podcasts, check out the chat in the show notes. I'll be putting some links in there, or if you're listening in podcast format, check them out there. Or you can go to www.reco12.com to join our social communities. Check out the chat and show notes. I'm also on the lookout to schedule other speakers for future RECO12 meetings. Right now, we're scheduling into May and June. So if you are someone or know someone with a message to share, please reach out to me at RECO12pod. That's RECO12pod @gmail.com, and we will get that ball rolling. RECO12 is self-supporting, and your contributions help us continue our message. Thank you this last week to Marjorie and Chloe for being spearheads and supporting the RECO12 cause. If you would also like to support RECO12 and become a spearhead, visit RECO12.com/support or click on the links in the show notes and chat for one-time or monthly donation options. Your support makes a difference in keeping us being able to share these messages of recovery. We look forward each meeting to receiving from the light reflected from our speakers. That light inspires hope, meaning, worth, and growth in us, the listening audience. Now I'm going to introduce our guest speaker for today, Constance S., and give a little background on her. Constance was raised in the 1960s and 1970s in Manhattan by parents who worshipped at the altar of the never-ending party. Constance's alcoholism was a result of both nature and nurture. Having her first blackout at 14 and having the Irish side of her family riddled with alcoholism, she knew her drinking days had an expiration date. And so Constance drank and snorted blow with a vengeance until she had reached her limit of shame, bad decisions, holes in her memory, and the detritus that we who are alcoholics have swirling about us. And so now, with 38 years of hard-fought and hard-won recovery under her belt, cobbled together one day at a time, she wouldn't change any of it, as she considers herself one of the most blessed humans on the planet, a truly grateful alcoholic. Take it away, Constance. The floor is yours.
Hi, Justin. Hi, everybody. My name is Constance, and I am a grateful recovering alcoholic. What an honor to be here today and share. I love this podcast, and it just feels like home. And how lucky are we, boys and girls, that wherever we go in the world, home is available to us. It's now available to us through our devices, but any meeting hall, anywhere you go, you walk in and you're accepted. That's one of the reasons why I consistently tout the fact that being in recovery is a gift, because I look at the normal people out there struggling, and they don't have what we have. They don't have a place to go. They don't have home where fellowship awaits, a cup of bad coffee, and some interesting interactions. Let me give you kind of the hybrid version or the truncated version of my story here. We're all here for the same reason. I don't care what your addiction is. Pain. Pain is the common denominator. And pain, shame, but all those words. My heritage, well, let's just say this. Nature loaded the gun. Nurture pulled the trigger as far as my alcoholism is concerned. I was set up. All my people are alcoholics, grandparents, and on down the line. I'm an only child of two only children. And both my parents were alcoholics, and my mother was a serial marrier. And funny, but she kept picking alcoholics to marry. You know how that is. So as I looked out into the world, into the freneticism and insanity and chaos that alcoholism just naturally attracts to itself, I grew up with a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, never knowing how to place myself correctly. Everything I did was wrong. And so way before I started drinking, I had the mentality of, I need relief. I'm confused. I don't have anywhere to go to be heard, to be understood. Now, my parents, because they were partiers, I want you to think Mad Men. You know, everything looked really pretty. I always say we did everything but sacrifice virgins at cocktail hour. The bell, you know, the ship's bell, my father was in shipping, would ring, and then he would go to the bar and he would start bringing out all his accoutrements and, you know, grabbing the proper glass for the proper, you know, contents. And mother would run to the kitchen and get the hors d'oeuvres, and it would start out looking just so lovely. And then tick-tock, 2 or 3 martinis later, fists are flying. Everything is wrong. It's just chaos, right? I realized at an early age that if I was going to be part of their world, I kept trying to get acceptance from them. See me, look at me. And because I was an only child, they kept just taking me everywhere. So I was in parties, I was in places I shouldn't have been in as a kid. I don't regret any of it. It was actually quite interesting from my vantage point. So when I was 14, we were away. We used to go to the Bahamas on vacation, and my father wanted to live down there, and he eventually moved down there. We were at this resort that they frequented, and my parents were out at the beach bar. What a surprise. And I was in by the pool, and I thought, you know, I think I want to drink. So I went up to the bartender, who was my buddy, Bursel, and I said, hey, Bursel. He said, oh, you want a Planter's Punch? I mean, you want a pink lemonade? And I said, no, I'm graduating today. Today I want a Planter's Punch. Now, in the Caribbean at the time, you could just get your hand to the bar. You could drink, right? So he poured me the mightiest drink. It's Mount Gay rum, sort of fruit juices, Myers floater, and nutmeg. I mean, even as an adult, drinking one of those will just floor you. I drank that right down in the hot sun. What an idiot. And then drank another one and sat there in the chaise longue thinking, how am I going to get up to go to the bathroom? I hadn't realized that with drinking came loss of using your limbs. The connection between your brain and your body basically goes away. So I figured out how to get to the restroom, made my way to the bar, told my mother I had just, you know, been drinking Planter's Punches. She was so excited. She turned around and announced to the bar that Constance just had her first shitter on, and everyone clapped. Yay! I was in the club. I was so excited to be in the club. It's all I wanted. Home life, hideous. Tried to do the suicide thing. That didn't work. Realized I had to get out. And the only answer I could figure was, since I couldn't seem to kill myself, was to go to boarding school. Parents couldn't wait to get me to boarding school. They couldn't sign the check fast enough. And that's when my alcoholism soared. Just think, Fort Lauderdale, Florida in the 70s. I mean, basically, every night was beat the clock, twofers. We had all the major drugs coming through there from, you know, the Caribbean and South America and Mexico. And it was just a free for all. And I learned how to talk my way out of things. I learned how to climb out of second-story windows. I learned, because I was going to drink. Everything was about the party, but we called it a party. We are partying because that sounds nicer, right? I partied myself away. I barely graduated. I did have a, what we call, I'm in the Boston area, and we call, when you get hung up, it's called the jackpot. So I had a jackpot, went to jail, I was in a car with a friend of mine, and it went out of control, and we ended up in a home, actually in the home. Luckily, the people weren't home. We were in the living room, and there was the TV to my right and the kitchen to my left, and didn't go well. The cops didn't like us, and I got put in jail, and just for the afternoon. Oh well, that didn't stop me. Carry on. Doesn't this happen to everyone? I mean, this is what I love about us. You just keeps getting worse, right? It never gets better. It just keeps getting worse, and you just think it's normal. This is normal. Also, everybody I surrounded myself with were like I was. So I had my mirror everywhere. So it did look normal. And my parents were drinking like that. So, all right, fast forward, I go off to college, whole new ball game in college. I went to a couple of institutions of higher learning. My second one, University of Michigan. Boy, everything took off. Now you're going to think you're in the Midwest, right? I'm a girl from Manhattan. I thought we knew it all, did it all, had it all. I get to Michigan. Wow, there's a whole new world. Well, first of all, they had the hash bash. We actually got to sit outside and smoke weed, and nobody did anything to you, which I found fascinating. And they also had incredible drugs. I made friends with a chemist. I was getting 4-way window pane and whatever I wanted, crazy, anything we wanted was available there. And I took advantage of everything. I never said no, except I did say no to needles. That was my thing. I drew the line. And what I love is the hubris of it. I don't do needles. Yeah, but I do everything else. Like that makes me better than somebody else. What a joke. On and on the stories go. We know the stories. We end up on our knees. It's never pretty. And then I ended up in Newport, Rhode Island. I'm a sailor, and we sailors know how to party. And I spent 4.5 years partying like it was 1999. And then I realized one day I was going to have to quit. I went to visit my father in Nassau in the Bahamas. He was in horrible shape. He was a big man. He was 6'2", very broad shoulders, always in good shape. And he looked like Skeletor. And he was just, the alcoholism had caught up with him. We can't outrun it forever, right? The hounds of hell are constantly nipping at our heels. And then all of a sudden, one day they overrun us. And we know, all of us know in the back of our heads what we are. We do, whether we give it a name, whether we say, I'm not normal, this isn't normal. We know there's this voice in the back of your head. Me, I think I was lucky having alcoholic parents because I had what I call the preview of coming attractions. I got to see where I was headed. It was clear. I was going down that road. So I made the decision one day that I was going to quit drinking. And I said to my buddies, okay, here's the deal. My birthday's coming up, beginning of March. I'm going to quit drinking. I want a big party though. I want lots of Veuve Clicquot. I want Peruvian flake. I want dancing boys. I want, I was basically giving my whole, and they said, oh, great, we can do that. Had the big party. And then I woke up whenever I woke up and said, I'm not really ready to quit. So I went 3 more weeks. And then I woke up on Monday morning, March 24th, 1986. So sick and tired of being sick and tired. So done, so filled with shame and pain and worthlessness. So tired of myself and my lifestyle. My checkbook was open on my desk. The balance was nil, right? And then I got this thought in my head, and here's where God pops in. God has popped in all the way through, by the way. That's why I'm still here. But this was very clear to me. I got this thought that I had to quit drinking because I didn't want somebody, a child of mine, to hate me the way I hate my mother. And I didn't want children because I was raised with my mother telling me we're a problem. She could have been somebody. She could have been a contender. I held her back. And I thought, well, that's odd. But that feels really right. This is the God thing, right? This message comes in that resonates. You don't know where it came from. It has nothing to do with what you've been thinking. And so I made the decision, and that morning I raised my fist And Gone with the Wind fans out there, she raises her fist at the halftime in the movie, and she says, "As God is my witness, my kin will never be hungry again." I said, "As God is my witness, I will never drink alcohol again." And honestly, that was it for me. I knew there was no going back. The door slammed behind me, and my life opened out in front of me. I didn't know how I was going to do it. Now, I did it a little differently. I didn't go to AA the way many of us do. I had been to many AA meetings. I had been to a lot of treatment centers because my mother kept trying to get sober. And so I was doing family weekend and all that. But her current husband, who was in the program, and she was in the program at that time, I loved, my stepfather, Bill. And he was big in 12 steps and just such an amazing human being. And I called him up and I said, "Listen, I'm not going to drink anymore and I need your help." But I didn't want to go to meetings because we were in Newport. They were there too. And she's a saboteur. And I couldn't have her. I needed to do this myself. I had the big book. I had all stuff. I'm into philosophy and myth, and I like to go into my imagination. So I knew I could make it happen. So then life happens, right? You realize I ran down to the restaurant I used to get drunk in all the time. And I said, "I need a job," because I hated my other job. And she gave me a job. And I said, "I want a waitress for the summer and then get the hell off this rock," right? We called Newport the crippler of young adults. I said, "I got to get the hell out of here." And she gave me a job. I amassed enough cash. And then I moved to Boston, which is the natural migratory process for people in Newport, right? With time to grow up and maybe get a job. Oh my gosh, I was so excited to be sober. I was so excited to wake up early. And I want to say but I am. I am a real marketer for sobriety. I am. I'm a goofball. And this does not mean that we don't have days. I don't have days where I'm overwhelmed and all the other stuff. But on the whole, my worst day sober is still better than my best day drunk. I can't even. And I was the cleanup person. I was like Harvey Keitel in Pulp Fiction, who'd always come in and, carve up the dead body. We expend so much energy when we're drinking and using or whatever our thing is. How do I clean it up? Where was I last night? Who was I? Who did I do? Why did I do that? You spend the whole day cobbling together your hideous story of the night or two before. And then you go, yeah, where's the next party? It's exhausting. So I just felt like, I had relief. Being sober was, I don't want to say this. It was simple. It was simple. Wasn't easy, but simple. What makes it simple? Well, guess what? Get a routine. Right out of the gate, get a routine, get a routine, get a routine. I don't care what you do, but we need routines. My routine, I wake up in the morning, I lay in bed, and I appreciate and I pray. And my prayer is about appreciation and gratitude. And then I say, I can't wait to see what you're going to show me today, what's out there in the world, and anything that I can do to help others, to be of service. Please allow me that grace to make that happen. That's the first thing. That's my foundation of the day. Then I'm an exerciser. I'm a yogi. I'm a teacher and a student of yoga. Back in the day, I was into aerobics. Pick your thing, walk. I don't care what you do. I find that when I'm secure in my body, I feel like I can rule the world, right? And finally, I was doing something with my body that was positive. I wasn't filling her full of poison, and then wondering why I wasn't hip and happening. What else do I love about sobriety? How about follow through? Wow. What the hell? We didn't even know what that was. I follow through. How about integrity? Oh my gosh. You know what? We're all born with integrity. And yet we sacrifice that part of ourselves, which is literally, I believe, selling a part of your soul. Because that's who you are to you, your integrity. Who am I? Am I a woman of my word? I wasn't. I tell you anything you wanted to hear just to just go, get away. Or, yeah, I'll do that. Where's that 8 ball? or, everything had a tit for tat or a quid pro quo, right? I now am a woman of integrity. So all these things, my life started unfolding for me in ways I never could have imagined. And I found myself at the beginning of my sober career here in Boston, working as a temporary. We called ourselves temps at the time. And you went and you worked in an office and you typed and maybe you answered phones or whatever. People actually wanted to hire me. They actually thought I was doing a good job. I have a brain. If I only had a brain. Turns out I do. It turns out that I'm trustworthy. How about that? Wow. All these parts of me that were drowning beneath the booze were just waiting for me to take away the malaise of being drunk and being just planning my next drunk, and just came to the fore. Now, one thing I do want to say, I want to be really clear about this. Recovery, sobriety. Now, the two aren't the same. Sober is me not picking up a cocktail today. That's my sober. Good for you, girl. You're not drinking. That's the first part of our journey. We put that down. That's just the beginning. Now, I know this is a little scary. You're first starting, you're like, what? I'm not drinking. That's a big deal. It is a damn big deal. And it's a big deal every darn day. And that's something to remember. And that's a pat on your back. I don't care. I really herald that. The fact that we actually looked ourselves in the mirror and said, that's it, we're done. Now the work begins. And I don't mean the pejorative work, drudge, awful. I mean the work at discovering who you are. I mean the work at setting free the you that is filled with possibility and opportunity. I mean the work of learning to love yourself, of offloading all the character defects. Look, we're never going to get rid of them all. We're human. That's part of the game here. Just when you think you've gotten good at something, something else comes along, right? So I liken it to climbing a mountain. I'm not a mountain climber. But what do they say? But I have friends who are, or something. So you climb a mountain, you get to a certain spot, and you stop there because you have to acclimatize. Your body has to acclimatize to the altitude, and you look out into the world. So I believe that first stop is the day we put down the drink, and we're looking out, and the sun is shining, and the birds are chirping, and we don't want to kill them, and if life feels pretty darn good. And then you're going to be there, but then the work starts. What's that work? Well, that's uncovering my mental obsession, so I have a physical craving and a mentality that leads me to that physical craving. Now, I said at the beginning of my story, I'd set that up at a young age before I ever drank. With all the fear and the anxiety, I was reaching for things to quell these emotions, and I didn't know what to do with. I felt like Mount Vesuvius. I was just blowing all over the place, right? The work starts, and so does at the same time, I've got to give us so much credit, because here you are over here working on yourself. Here you are no longer drinking. Now, a lot of friends go the way of the buffalo. That's nice. Goodbye. They just do it on their own. Thank you. Then there are some that are kind of hanging in there. And then you need to pick some new friends, right? From your new vantage point. You're not that same person anymore. And in the midst of it all, you're living in a world that celebrates drinking. Drinking, the national pastime is to drink while watching the national pastime. It's insane how much people drink. And I was with a friend of mine the other night who came in. I used to live in California, one of my California girls. And she said, I remember going out with you and people looking askance at you or making commentary. What do you mean you're not drinking? This happens to us, and it's not easy to handle. It depends on how we're feeling in a particular day. Some days you go out there and you're bulletproof, right? You're like, whatever. No, I'm not drinking today. And you just look at them. Like, shrivel and die, please. Go away. Or what do you say? How do you learn to deflect? How do you learn to live in this world and not fall, what we used to call fall off the wagon, or basically relapse, right? So I'm going to fast forward because I got about 5 more minutes. So here we go. I've lived in a lot of places. I just came back to the Boston area about a year and a half ago. I was overwhelmed. I'd been living in Mexico for 5 years. I really dug it on the beach. Woo! Life was free and easy. By the way, the AA meetings in Tijuana are outstanding. Got here and I was filled with a lot of stuff that I thought I'd cleaned up. So, every step up that mountain, a new you is there and new circumstances come in and you got to clean it up. So I started really hitting AA hard. And I went to I flitted around. I was the hummingbird of AA meetings. If it was in a 20-mile radius, count me in. And the thing that happened to me was I noticed that everybody was talking about people dying. Like every wakes and funerals were every week. Because back in my day, you went out again, chances are you'd live, right? You might show up again, or you might still drink for the next 20 years. But now with fentanyl, our world is under siege and no one cares, right? Whatever. They're a mess. Look at him. He lives on the street. Who cares about him? And it came to me, I think I have something to offer our community. And that's when I decided to write a book, A Sober Companion, Sober Life Skills, to teach people, because I have had every empirical experience that money can buy and not buy over being sober. So what happens when you go to your first office party? What happens when you're going out on a first date? How do you prepare? Basically, if you took the sober out of it, it's just life skills. Because we have to prepare more than other people. We have to have snacks. We have to have our drink. We have to know how we're getting home. We have to prep. And so that's what led me to writing this book, which I'm still writing it. I'm almost 75% done. And then I decided to reach out to Justin. I just love this podcast. And I said, I want to continue giving this. I'm loving the service feeling, right? I got a feeling. And let me tell you, AA, this past year and a half, saved my life. Brought me back. The promises I had drifted, hauled me back in. I don't wake up anxious. I don't wake up fearful. All these wonderful opportunities have presented themselves to me. And I'm flowing and blowing with and that's 38 years. So you think, wow, she should have it together. Well, guess what? It's not a PhD. Okay. I am in recovery. I have not recovered. Completely different. And we have to work on ourselves every darn day. And that's the joy of it. That's what makes us, dare I say it, cooler than a lot of the people out there. Because they're still in their wah-wah. They don't even know how crazy they are. At least we know, and we admit it to each other. And we have a place to go where we can say, hi, I just did something today that is just, I got to get it off my chest. And nobody looks at you like you're crazy, because we're all sitting there going, yeah, I know what it's like. So I just want to say to everybody out there, good for you. Keep up the good work. It just gets better and better and better. Life has so much to offer when you're what I call on the bright. That's what my stepdad used to call it. And I appreciate everybody here today listening. And I hope that whatever I have shared might have given someone something, a little something in your day. Thank you so much. Constance, grateful, recovering alcoholic.
Oh, thank you so much, Constance. Beautiful, beautiful message. And you shared several things. I've got a whole page of notes here for questions, but I want to remind our live audience, if you have a question for Constance, please type it in the chat. If you'd like to remain anonymous, at the top of what you type, say anonymous, please. Otherwise, I'll read your first name when I ask your question. But type it in the chat. We'll get to those as we get along here. But Constance, I want to start off with basically what you closed up with. You talked about a rediscovery of things that you thought you had cleaned up. This week, I had that exact same situation where I thought this was something that I had cleaned up and I didn't ever have to worry about it. I'm not 38 years in the room. I'm about 10 years in the rooms. And all of a sudden, this blind spot was opened up to me in a way that just rocked my world. I'm
Mhm.
grateful for the tools of recovery that made it so that I could go into a room and say, like what you said, hey, I just did something really stupid, and here's what I'm learning from it. So talk to me a little bit about that process of recognizing the stupid things that come back that you think, hey, I got this taken care of. And they just come back as soon as, well, my experience was as soon as I turned my gaze just a little bit this way, that blind spot became really huge. So talk to us a little bit about your experience with that.
Well, I think there's something, a complacency sometimes that might happen. I've got this, you know, I got it all worked out. Look at me. I'm all that in a bag of chips, and I have a tendency to go there. You can tell I'm kind of woo, I'm kind of like that. And what do they say? You read your own press clippings. And I was complacent, and I did what I didn't take into consideration. My daughter had decided she wanted to come to college in Boston. She's like, and I lived here, as I said at the beginning of my sobriety, for 10 years. And I said, oh gosh, okay, I'm not really one to go back. I just keep moving forward into different and new experiences. And I got back here, and there's so much I love about it here, but I swear to God, the Ghost of Christmas Past was on every corner for me. I got married here. I like all these things, good things and not so good things. And I realized, ooh, I have some work to do. I can't be complacent. I can't be flippant. I can't not pray. I can't not meditate. I can't not really look at myself and take my own inventory here and say, that was bad behavior. And I started falling into these traps of doing things. One thing was I was getting road rage. I'm not a road rage. Bostonians, they drive, well, they're just insane. And in Mexico, I couldn't get road rage because you don't know who you're getting angry at. And, there's, they've got groups down there that don't take kindly to it. And everybody's associated with one of them. So I kind of kept that tamped down. And then I come here and I'm, ew, this horrible side of me is revealing itself to me. Well, what is that? That's the symptom. What's underneath that? What haven't I dealt with? So I had to start from quote unquote scratch, but not really, because we have the tools, like you said. We have what I call my quiver. My quiver, I pull out, oh, I've got this, I've got this. So I just went into my quiver. Oh, I need to do this. I need to do this work. I need to work on this. I called people. I asked for help. It's hard for some of us, it's hard for me. I joined a women's group, never had a women's group before, I was like, I drank with men. Why wouldn't I get sober with them? Wow. Stupid things like that. What? I say these things and I think they sound, yeah, that's how I did it. Well, who are you now? Well, it turns out I needed those women. I needed those women more than I ever could have thought I needed those women. They helped me. They helped me to get back on the bright here and on the straight. And so I think it can be complacency. It can be something we missed. It can be circumstances come up and then it bubbles to the surface. But we have the tools now to know how to say, help, I need help.
Mm. So I love how you walked through that, Constance. One of the things that's really opened my eyes in the last little bit is I need to be willing to do something more. And you talked about, I joined a women's group. I made outreach calls, which that's not a strength of mine. What kinds of insights have you gained as you started doing things that you previously thought weren't necessary, but you've found as you've progressed along? I'm going to use this phrase that a speaker used a couple months ago: new level, new devil, new sod, new God. As you progress along, there's different things that come along. How have implementing those new things that you were willing to do helped you at this time?
Oh my gosh. Well, they've opened up a whole new, okay, so I'm on the new plateau, right? I keep going up the mountain. I've made incredible friendships. I have found parts of myself that are more compassionate and loving. I'm a very loving person, but I have a tendency to be a hard ass. And that was to protect me, right? That's my protection mechanism, like a turtle. Well, I'm not a turtle, okay? And I'm not a hard ass. I mean, I'm actually gushy and mooey, all that. And I don't want anybody to know. And that's why I didn't want those women around. Women know we pick up on each other's vibe. I'm like, oh, get away from me. So it's opened up vistas to me of, and what's the best, what highlight of AA for me? Fellowship, 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 bad coffee, great people. It's filled my heart. I feel happy. I feel satisfied. I feel like I'm no longer, I was living here at first. I was like the stranger in the strange world when I first moved back here. And now I have a sense of belonging. I could cry. I mean, that's huge from someone who's always had her kind of face pressed against the glass, thinking, I don't fit in. I'm not like everybody else, right? Yeah. Just
Beautiful. I love that. And that imagery of fitting in and being part of it. That's a beautiful thing. Thank you for sharing that. We have an anonymous question, or not a question from an anonymous attendee. This person says, the big book says we can and do recover. Many times it says recovered. So why do you feel that you haven't recovered, that you are in recovery? Talk to us, Constance, a little bit about your experience, strength, and hope on that.
because it keeps me honest, man. I don't want to swear, but there's this thing where you tell yourself what you want to hear. I do not. Anybody wants to feel recovered, rock on. Okay. I used to. Now here's the interesting thing, how things change as we go through life. I never had a problem admitting that I was an alcoholic. I knew I was an alcoholic probably before anybody. I knew it when I had my first blackout. I was like, oh, oopsie, got that gene. Okay. But going to an AA meeting and saying it out loud, ooh, I just really didn't like that. And I didn't like the fact that I was never going to be recovered. I fought that. And then somewhere along the line, I said, wait a minute, what am I fighting? First of all, for me, and this is me, this is not anybody else, I need to keep my feet to the fire. I'm a crazy gal. I'm a nutty nut. My head can go, things can, yeah, I'm having arguments with people I haven't even met yet. Okay. And the only way I know how to handle that is to be completely honest, brutal honest with myself. Constance, you know where you're going, honey, if you continue down this path. I got rid of the road rage. Okay. That's not recovered. She's just put somewhere for a while. I'm Irish. We're crazy, right? I always say it's like unleash the Kraken. I got the Kraken down. She's in the cave. She's good. So that's for me. And I don't look at anybody else and have any judgment. You do you for what feels good to you. But I need that kind of rigorous honesty for myself. And that's why I say I have not recovered.
Yeah, thank you for walking through that. I love that perspective that you shared there. Thanks, Constance. Another question that I have that I love how you brought this up, and it was towards the beginning-ish of your talk. You said, I don't do needles. Like, hey, I'm better than you. I don't do needles. Maybe if I'm a food addict, I don't do fast food, but look out everything else. I don't see prostitutes, but look out everything else. I don't drink vodka, but look at everything else. I don't steal cars. Talk to us a little bit about that blindness and insanity of thinking I'm better than if I don't do that, but I'm still a mess everywhere else.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think it was the times too. So back in the day, right, when I was growing up in all of this, it was always considered, well, alcohol was always okay. That was never a bad thing. Everybody drank, whatever. Weed was just kind of coming in. People in bands smoked pot. There was always a group that did certain things, right? And heroin was for the ones that were like down and out, and there was kind of no hope for these people. Now, also remember that back in the day, NA and AA, there was a wall between the two. Very rarely would you go to an AA meeting and have someone who had a drug problem in there. Now, let's all laugh. Can we have a group laugh? Alcohol is a drug. Okay. But you see how that mentality for me was mirrored in my community. We don't talk about drugs here. This is alcohol. Now, I am so happy now back here on the East Coast and really, really in the program in a way that feels really good to me to see that there is no delineation. It's a fellowship for crying out loud. We're all here, whatever your thing is. And the minute, and I have so many people, I'd say that if I was to give a number, most of the people in the meetings are addicts and alcoholics here. What happened is a lot of the people, especially the younger folks, maybe 40s and down, OCs came in, oxys, 2000s. That ruined people. All of the prescription drugs. Do you know how many people tell their story? Oh, I hurt myself. They gave me 30 perks. Okay. So you've got prescription drugs have made that. Now what happens with OCs and heroin? Well, OCs and heroin, they're giving you the same result and it's cheaper to buy heroin. So boom, there you are, putting the needle in your arm. So I think it was more a cultural thing at the time. And I'm happy to say, and it was just ridiculous. When I got sober, that wasn't in my head. I wasn't thinking that you were less than me. I mean, I grew up in Manhattan with what we called them back in the day, bums. Those are the alcoholics lying on the park bench. Nobody's better than anybody else. We all go down the same hideous path. But I think that's what it stemmed from originally.
Yeah. Just such a, so you have a way of putting things that I think really animate things in my mind. So thank you for that, Constance. I appreciate the way you went through that. So next question also comes in from an anonymous attendee, but I've reposted it in the chat so you could see it, Constance. It's a little bit long, so you can refer to it. I'm going to read it. And then if you need to refer back to it, you can.
Okay.
Thank you so much for an amazing share. I'm 5 years sober and have done all 12 steps 3 times. My life has opened up beyond my wildest dreams, but I'm still crippled by fear and shame. Doing step 10s reinforces feelings of not being good enough. My prayers and meditation don't seem to fill me with peace anymore, and asking for help often leads to devastating rejection by women in the rooms that I admire. Do you have any experience, strength, and hope on how to overcome the fear and shame? And more importantly, how to stop allowing experiences of rejection from etching deeper grooves of shame within my soul?
Well, girl, I was you. I'm gonna cry. Very recently. And I guess what I could say is, and I have girlfriends from the program who said to me that they've been in women's groups and it hasn't really worked out. And this new one that was just started that I found has. I would say to you, keep reaching out, keep exploring, right? Go to new meetings. Get out of that. Maybe that you have some habitual meetings that you go to, that you love, stay there, but keep trying others. Keep going out there. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing the right thing. You're just in a rough patch. This too shall pass. I wish for some of us we could wave a magic wand, but sometimes this stuff bubbles up. And it sounds to me like you're doing, oh my gosh, you're doing all the right things, right? I would be kind to myself. Go take yourself to a movie, get a pedicure, take a nap. Sleep is important. And just keep reaching out and asking for help. The rejection thing, when we're not feeling, when we're a two-legged stool, anybody could look at us and say, hey, you look great today. And you could take that, the wrong way. So it's really about building from the inside out. Like, how do you build from the inside out? I would just say, keep doing what you're doing. I know it's hard. I was you. I keep looking over here in my room because I was on the living room floor crying on the phone with my girlfriend, like sniveling. multiple times, saying, I can't believe I'm back at this address again. I feel like I've already been down here. I look around and I see all the same shadows and all the same fears and all the same everything. But you got this because you've got this community. And look at, you're even writing questions about it. Do you journal? Journaling is great. Journaling helps a lot too. Do that. Just start writing something, anything. The sky is blue. You know, my pants are green. And then stuff starts to flow. The answers flow. And best to you. Absolutely.
Thank you, Constance, for that. And I'll add a little bit based on a couple of things that have come in since then, and also based on my own experience, strength, and hope here. To contribute to this, I don't want to crosstalk or give advice or whatever, but for me, there's a difference between a spiritual experience and a spiritual awakening. As I'm going through the steps, I need to embrace the spiritual experience and not just the little awakenings that happen. And I have to have those awakenings, but I've got to build those into an experience. And I can't say that you have not, our questioner has not had these vital spiritual experiences. And another thing that I find absolutely crucial is giving back to others in these, because oftentimes when all else, well, it's a line from the big book, when all other measures failed, work with another alcoholic saved the day. Talk to us a little bit about your work with other alcoholics, Constance.
Well, anything that we can do. I recently, I'm doing everything. I'm doing the program bass backwards. Okay. So most people come in the program. I'm like going out in the program. That's like, I just joined my first home group. I never wanted a home group. I never wanted to be, I have a thing about my freedom. Again, issues. I have these issues. And I never wanted to kind of be tied to one thing. Oh my gosh, the joy I'm having in the home group. Basically, they had to twist my arm. My buddies were like, come on, you gotta. I was like, oh. And then they had the business meeting and they just shoved the book at me and said, sign your name. I'm like, okay, you're right. Why am I resisting? I love these people. Okay. I don't feel that I am qualified to take people through the steps. That's me. I don't feel that I am in a place where I can do that. But what I can do, and I do, is I teach meditation. I teach journaling. I teach all of these things. I have retreats with my AA friends where we do stuff like this. We do yoga. We move our bodies. And then any service that I can do in my home group, from making coffee to passing doing the chips, anything. And you know what I hear a lot of people say, and I think it's true. Being uncomfortable, doing something that makes you uncomfortable is actually good. Now, I never would have heralded that. Only, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I would have said that, well, that's dumb. Why would you want to put yourself in a situation where it's uncomfortable? Because you're going to uncover your own, I don't want to say ridiculousness, your own resistance. And you're going to realize the resistance is just something that was got in your way. So raise your hand at the meeting when you don't feel like it. They ask you to speak, get up there and speak. Be the speaker tonight. Maybe offer yourself to be the speaker. Get out of your own comfort zone. Blast through it and come out the other side. It's enlightening.
Constance, you're going to hate me right now because
Okay.
I'm going to turn this on you a little bit. You need to be sponsoring people. Your light, your experience, strength, and hope is something that an individual will gain from massively. Don't sell yourself short. So raise your hand, do something that's uncomfortable.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. Bingo, Justin.
So are you going to hang up on me now and say, get out of my life, Justin?
No, you just brought it. No, I love it oh no, cold cock me. It makes my day. Okay. And I was listening to one of your podcasts this morning, walking the dog, and the guy was talking about like he was sponsored and then sponsoring. Okay. I'm going to open up to that. Thank
Awesome.
you.
You're welcome. And I stepped up on my soapbox there a little bit,
I'm glad you
but
did.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
glad.
thank you for. I'm glad that that prompting that came in was not just from me, but from a source higher than me. All
Yeah.
right. So I've got a couple more questions here, and we'll be wrapping up here in a couple minutes. But if anybody in the live audience has any more questions, please type them in. We'll get there. You mentioned that at your rock bottom, where you right as you rate, well, the 3 weeks, well, right, it was right when you raised your fist and said, I will not have another drink, as God is my witness. You said God came in, God popped in at that time, and He was popping in throughout your life in active addiction. And I'm assuming that it was probably at the darkest spots and the lowest spots where you, looking back, can see that God popped in. Talk to us a little bit about those experiences that you feel that, hey, God is aware, God, whatever, however that looks to you, how God popped in those moments.
Well, I've always had a good relationship with God. I was raised a Catholic girl. I went to Marymount School for Girls in Manhattan. I just always have. I felt like God was my homie. As an only child, I had a dog, two cats, and God. That's who I chatted with. And as a good friend, I yelled at him a lot and I thanked him a lot. I'm very much into gratitude. Um, I'll take you back to one night in particular where when I was 19, I had a nervous breakdown. I had a bleeding ulcer, and my right side of my body went numb and bad scene. I ran away from home because I just couldn't take the abuse anymore, and went and stayed with a friend of mine and fell apart. And I was done. I was done being on the planet. I was like, I can't. So I went out and I had a contretemps with God. I looked up at the sky and I said, I am so done with you. You screwed up giving me to these people. And now here I am. I cannot go another day. I'm going to give you a warning. You better figure something out, or I'm going to be sitting up there next to you before you know it, hounding you into eternity. Over and out. And I stomped back in. And seriously, this is kind of how I did it, crying. But, next morning, my girlfriend comes in, has no idea any of this is going on, and says, hey, want to get out of here? We were in Florida. Let's go to Michigan. My grandmother has a house with a basement apartment. We could live there for free. You could go back to school. I'll get my master's. What do you say? I said, that when we want to leave? She said, tonight. We'll throw our stuff in the car and get the hell out of here. She shut the door and I said out loud, wow, that was fast. Thanks. Thanks. I guess you don't want me up there, right? This is the thing. And this keeps happening to me, where I feel like there's no way out, and some person says something or somebody comes in and everything shifts for me. It just happened to me after these months. God had to be in my life to take me to these meetings where I started feeling secure enough to share, where I started feeling open and available, and I could actually make friends. I'm a little, like this, and I've been that way my whole life. And now I realize I don't have to be that way anymore. So that's one of my big God moments for sure.
Thank you, Constance. I appreciate that. We have another anonymous question from an anonymous attendee that just came in. What happens when you've worked the steps a few times and you're still not getting it, or it doesn't make any sense? Am I broken? That's this person's question there. What are your thoughts on that, Constance?
No, you're not broken. Absolutely not. Look, sometimes some of us have to go back to the well a lot. Maybe what I would say, and I'm so loath to give advice. I have to say this. I'm very reticent. You've worked the steps. Just let that go for a while. You know what I'd like to do? I go into myth. I go into philosophy. I go into psychology. I play around in other areas, because if you're looking at something and you're just not getting it, Keep looking at it, and not getting it is not going to make you feel better. Go into something that does make you feel better. Maybe you're a gardener. Maybe you've got something else that you could actually dive into that will allow you to open up to the possibilities. I really feel like when we're beating our heads against the wall with something, that it's time to let go of that wheel and just release and relax. And I believe because you have done them, you have gotten it. There's just something going on. There's just some resistance there. And you just got to let go of the resistance. You've done them. Let it go. Just wear it softly and live your life. Do things that calling to you. So maybe you want to try something new. Try something new. You know? Does that make sense?
Thank you so much, Constance. And just one thought on that for me, and I'm going to speak for myself on that. When I started feeling the healing, the wholeness, the recovery was when I finally said, I'm broken and I can't fix myself.
Oh,
Whatever higher power there is up there, you're going to have to fix me. I'm a shattered vase here, and I need that Japanese art of, I can't remember what it's called, but it's put together
yes.
with gold. That's what I need because I am shattered. I can't do this. And giving myself up to that. Now, I'm not saying to our attendee here, you're broken, you're hopeless. I'm saying that's my experience with that. So, yeah. All right.
I think that's a great advice, because I love heaving everything at God. Here you go.
Yeah.
Here are my problems. Do something. Now I'm going to go walk the dog.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm going to go walk the dog. Love it. I love that. Constance, do you have any final words of wisdom for us before we start closing up here?
Hmm. I just want to say, love yourselves if you can. Just like yourself today. If you can't love yourself, give yourself a break. Be kind to yourself. I know that we were really selfish when we were whatever addiction we were in, but there's a selfish that's a kindness. And I also think just being, what do we say, accepting where you are right now, acceptance, right? Just, okay, I'm here, look at me, I'm doing it, I'm doing the best thing, I'm doing the best that I can, and good for me. Yeah, that's what I would say today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Constance. Um, Thank you for being here, and thank you for a fantastic RECO12 weekly speaker meeting. If you in the audience, if you had a question that we couldn't get to, or you have more that you'd like to look into, please consider joining our WhatsApp community. You can email me at RECO12pod@gmail.com to join in that conversation. Also, Constance, are you okay if people reach out to me if I connect them with you?
Absolutely.
Okay. If you want to connect with Constance, please send an email to RECO12pod@gmail.com. I'll put that in the chat here in just a minute and I'll get you connected with Constance that way. If you haven't already done this, please consider going and rating and reviewing the podcast on Apple Podcasts. It's a powerful way to work step 12 and make sure and get that message out there. Make sure to check out the Afro Euro recordings that Karen A hosts on many Wednesdays with us. And next Friday, we're going to be hearing from our repeat speaker, Yitzi R., who spoke to us way back in January of 2021 on the topic then of I've recovered, now what? And this next week, his topic will be what being a new parent in recovery looks like. So I'm excited about that. And Yitzi's a guy who I know from previous things, and he's just got a lot of energy and a lot of insight. I'm excited to hear from him. So stay tuned on the WhatsApp community and on our email list for more information on that and other things RECO12 is doing. And if you aren't on the email list or community, send me an email, RECO12pod@gmail.com. I'll get you on that so you can do that. Now let's launch off into the rest of our day with a poem, Invictus by William Ernest Henley, that Constance will read for us. You got that, Constance, ready to
Oh,
go?
yeah, it's in my head.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
I love reciting poetry. Okay, hang on, let me get it. Let me get it straight. Here we go. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloodied, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Constance, and thank you for your share. Everybody, keep coming back, and when you come all the way in, sit all the way down. Work this program. It works when I work it. Work it. You are worth it.
There was a man put his hand by the side of his mouth, and he wanted to scream, but the sound never came out. So he reached for the bottle to wash the pain away, 'cause what he wanted so badly was to live a different way. And all of his problems and all of his pain filled up the puddle and rose with the rain. His ship kept on sinking to the bottom of the lake. For certain that he was just a fake, just a fake. Was a man put his hand by the side of his mouth, and he wanted to share, but only lies ever came out. So he reached for the needle to numb the pain inside. And the truth that he yearned for shriveled up and died. And all of his problems, all of his pain filled up the puddle, rose with the rain. The ship kept on sinking to the bottom of the lake. For certain that he was just a fake, just a side of his mouth as he read from the book, only truth spilled out. So he reached for a power to help him through the night. 'Cause what lives